Thank you very much for joining us. We're looking at the new Spellbinders Glimmer Hot Foil system. And I designed quite a few of the plates for this system. So we're just looking at how these plates can be used in different ways, which Josie is going to show you how the system works. And then I will take what she's done and I'll embellish it and show you how I tend to use them.
We're going to be using one of Paul's designs today, and we're going to be using his hot foil plate that's called the Holly Wreath. And I went ahead and turned my machine on, and I waited for the green light for the power button to stay green. And this is for the platform is ready. So once this is solid green, you can go ahead and start foiling. So I'm going to just go ahead and set this down on the non-slip silicone mat. Now remember, this surface is hot. Although you can touch it, you don't want to leave your hands on the platform for long periods of time, but you're not going to burn yourself if you are just touching it and moving things around to line them up. And if you don't want to touch it, you can use the tool-in one and move it around, or you can use any other tools that you have on your work area to move things around and put it in place. And for this particular foil project, we're going to go ahead and use the green foil, and we're going to foil it onto this dark brown chocolate paper, which these colors just really pop when you use it on a darker color paper. So we're going to go ahead and build up our layers. So the first thing you want to do, which we already did this, we went ahead and pre-cut our foil the size of your plate. But what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to go ahead and just trim off these corners. And what this does is it just helps so you don't overfoil the corners when you're running everything through the machine. You don't want to have a lot of excess foil on top of the platform because it can transfer to your paper and then you would have to start over. So there's your plate. The foil goes shiny side down, so the pretty side of the paper is going to go down, and then the matte silver is going to be facing up. And then we're going to take our cardstock and we're gently going to place this down on top of the foil. And then we are going to take our plates. So the first one is the shim, and we're going to put that down next. And then the next one is the main plate, is your main spacer plate. And we're just going to set that on top of here. And then I'm going to go ahead and push the timer button. The timer light is solid, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the platform from the base. And I'm going to put it directly into the machine here. And I'm not going to run it all the way through. Once I know that I've gone over my plate, I'm going to go ahead and run it back out. So once I run my platform through the machine, I like to put it back on the base and push it in, so that way it doesn't cool off. And between projects and running the platform through the machine, it keeps it hot, and you don't have to wait that long for it to heat back up. So now we're just going to take the layers off of the plate. So we're going to start with our spacer plate. We're going to remove the shim, and then we're going to lift up our paper, and the foil is usually stuck to it.
Exciting.
And Paul is probably going to ruin the surprise for me. He's going to blow it off before I can before I can peel it off. So this is the best part, is when you peel this off and you just see that beautiful transfer with the foil. And it's just, I mean, it's amazing.
It really is something else.
It really looks beautiful.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at some of the patterns that we've foiled so that you can see how I would tackle using them in different ways.
And Paul's also going to share with you his inspiration for these two dies. He's going to show you the inspiration for the Holly Wreath and also for congratulations. And I wanted to show you one more thing. I just wanted to show you the back of the foil and what it looks like once you pull it off. And you just can see right through there. And in another video, I'm going to show you some tips on how to use the negative foil. And it's a really great technique.
Definitely.
So I'm going to let Paul do his thing, and I will see you in a bit.
So thanks, Josie, for that. The first thing I would like to talk to you about is how I came up with the idea for these different designs. I'm just going to pull this off. Notice how carefully I'm moving things. I'm not just sort of haphazardly moving things really randomly, because I'm working with ink and I don't want to accidentally knock ink over and get it everywhere, because, you know, the problem with ink is once you knock it over, it gets not just on everything, it gets on your hands and everywhere else. There we have the artwork. and the plates and their corresponding gilded forms. So let's grab one of these and let me show you how I came up with this design. The thing about Copperplate Script is it produces a really lovely simplistic pattern. Now, one of the initial issues I had with the script was I couldn't write it at that size and have it work. So I'm just going to write this out really quickly for you. Copperplate Script is written at 55 degrees. So the nib really should face the direction of the axis of the script, which is 55, so it's about there. And I decided to use, because I've done a fair deal of research in the history of the script and the development of the writing system, which is based on the English roundhand from the beginning of the 17th century. So I decided to use a particular G that I found in a writing master copybook from the late 1700s. So I'm just going to stop there. I know some people love the sound of the nib on the page, and some people absolutely hate it. So I hope you like it. And I'm using really smooth movements to cross the T, which is essentially that shape. And then let's see which G that I use. Oh, that G. Ha. So what I did to get the weight in the right place was I actually started here. So that's roughly the shape that I got. From there, once I worked out the basis of the structure of the words, I then used a Fude 8 brush pen. And I mapped out the fact that I wanted the writing to slope up and around, because my intention was for us to have space under here. And what we did in the end was we cut the G so that you had space to fill in somebody's name just there. I then dotted the lines in. Notice I'm using my arm to do this. I'm not using my fingers. So it allows me to produce different kinds of shapes. And because I'm sitting with my entire arm on the desk, I can use something called muscular movement, which allows the arm to roll on this muscle, which gives you really smooth curves. So we get and I'm going to use a contemporary S, because of course in Copperplate Script the S actually looks like this. Then I'm going to cross this top bar there. I'm going to add the flourish on the bottom of the G. So I want the bottom of the G to do this. I'm going to leave some space as well, so I'll actually write some text in so you can see how I thought this through. So I want to write something here. So I know the G cannot go that far. So we're going to, but I want a really beautiful flourish at the bottom. So I'm going to use a continuous interlacing flourish. And I want to fill that space. And let's just do some little leaf flourishes, which I've used on some of the other plates to give the impression of a sort of frond-like foliate structure. So we can have blocks of text here now. So in my mind, I'm planning this out in the hopes that you will have space to play with and you'll have space to do beautiful things. And so we're going to have a look at the original, how I came up with it, and what we did with the plate, and what we've done with the foil. What would I do here? I've tons of these. So I have tons of these in the studio. And essentially what I've done is I've cut a border out of some Scrapbook.com card. And I'm just going to drop this onto there. And I'm going to line it up to the top. And I'm going to teach you my little method for using a paperclip, which everybody laughs at until you try it. Stick your little finger, into the paperclip like so. So it's raised. Decide that you want which side you want at the top, because it doesn't make sense having the small side on the top and the big side on the other side, because what your eyes will see is an odd sort of line. So I tend to like the small sides on the top. And because they're pushed up that far, you push them up from the back, right up to the top. Double check that the page is lined up. Then you do the same, no movement. And then I'm going to take a bone folder. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to score this from the back side. I'm just going to push that down a little bit. And what you have here is you have that raised edge, right? Now, if you make a mistake, and sometimes mistakes are really great to make because they teach you how to cope with issues. So this is a slightly unsightly mistake. So let's look at this mistake. What can I do with this? So I'm kind of glad that I messed that up, because I think it's really important that you see you don't just have to throw things away. So let's put that aside, because what I really want you to see is how I tackle light on dark. So as I showed you with the congratulations, I'm just going to run through this design because I think it's really important that you see how the designs were made, how they came about, why they look the way they look. And the fact that, they're not as difficult as you think. So we're just going to do some basic flourishing. So we're just going to plot this. So I know that we want to stay within this area. And we're going to go and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. So we have the bare bones of the holly. And then we're going to add a leaf and add a leaf and add a leaf and add a leaf. It's not magic. And all it really takes is to spend some time in nature and do some drawing. Grab a sketchbook, go outside, take your time. And I don't expect that I can just draw holly off the top of my head. So what I did was, I drew the leaf, I sketched the leaf in, I sketched the leaf in, I sketched this leaf in. So I'm only going to work at the bottom bit. And I played with the leaves because I think it's really nice that you learn to play with your work. And so what I did initially was I twisted the leaves. So initially I did an acanthus leaf rather than a holly leaf, because I love acanthus. I think acanthus is such an amazing leaf structure. So there we see the inked in pattern, and you can see how similar they are. Obviously, you know, drawing it from scratch again, it's obviously going to be a little bit different. And then I digitized it and flipped it. And based on that same pattern that I used earlier on, I'm going to add some tendril flourishing. So these are generally little, really, really delicate lines. Notice I'm turning the page. And what you're not seeing me do is this. Because if you're doing this and you're squeezing yourself, you don't have this beautiful smooth movement going. So I hope you notice that I keep checking and double checking the pattern and breathing slowly. I'm not doing this really quickly. I'm just really taking my time with it. And then I want to make the weight. So I'm thinking through what I'm doing. I want to make the bowl of the holly, the bottom, heavier. So I'm going to add slightly heavier lines here now. And I'm making the lines a little less pressure so that you get this sort of deposition upwards. I'm going to add some little leaf tendrils. And you know, I can hear some of you saying, oh, but I can't do that. I have no idea how to do that. They're just, if you look at how a vine works, you know, you look at a vine growing, they're these lovely little tendril-like shapes. And they come out and they just curl a little bit. And then we're just adding little hairlines in. I would love for you to try this. I would love for you. I know you're going to mess it up on the first go. And you know what? You know you're going to mess it up on the first go. So don't do it on the pattern. Obviously, try it on a separate piece of paper. But I developed this so that you could be a part of this process, so that you could enjoy making these. You know, lots of people say to me, oh, you know, I enjoy making cards for my friends and my family. I want you to enjoy making this for yourself. I'm not going to do both patterns. I'm not going to do the whole pattern, otherwise we'll be here for days. So that gives you a sense of how that pattern works. I'm going to grab another one, and I'm going to show you something else. So we're going to do a monogram inside here. So that's a fairly simplistic addition, just using a flourish and using a B and an R and an ampersand. There's some great tools at Scrapbook.com, some amazing tools. So I'm going to look at how some of these tools can be used in collaboration, in conjunction with what we've done. So this is a Derwent water brush, albeit a slightly dirty one. And what I'm doing is I'm just letting that flood out. I'm going to flood it like I write with it. So just flooding the outside of the letter. I'm being really careful, and I know again, I can hear some of you saying, yeah, but I can't control the brush like that. I don't expect you to control the brush like this first off. What I do expect you to do is to think, I can't control the brush like that, so I'm going to practice. So this is an Inktense, a Derwent Inktense pencil. And already we see that starting to pop. Now it's very different. I'm going to use a slightly different technique on the outside. I'm just going to fill the outside with a little bit of color. So I've not wet the outside of the right. So usually you're generally told the light is coming from the top left. So the shadow generally falls on the right and the bottom side. And then I'm just going to add it. So I'm using the pencil like a watercolor pencil, and I'm just shading. I'm not pressing hard because I know in my mind what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the water. So what you get is a different depth of color. It's really beautiful. So I'm going to do a little bit of writing on here. I'm actually going to use some of Kelly Create because I love these markers. I think they're really good. Let's do Kelly here. And I'm going to use a wink of Stella brush, which is a Kuretake brush. And I know that I want to stay on the outside of the letter because I want the right side of the letter to act as a shadow. So there's a lot that's possible. I mean, I'm just trying to show you lots of different possibilities really quickly. If you spend the time with them, you can use lots of different tools, lots of different materials. Obviously, the Glimmer Hot Foil system works on lots of different surfaces, which we'll show you a little later on. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your patience. And thank you very much for your love of the Glimmer Hot Foil system. Have a nice day. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more from Scrapbook.com, please like, share, subscribe, and leave a message. Happy crafting!